You go.
Hi, I'm Ethan.
I'm Levi.
And this is our sociology final podcast.
The concepts we're going to be discussing are week 2, week 5, week 6, and week 11.
All right, so Levi, for week 2, your quote was, "The sociological imagination enables its possessor to understand the larger historical scene in terms of its meaning for the inner life and the external career of a variety of individuals. It enables him to take into account how individuals in the welter of their daily experience often become falsely conscious of their social positions." Can you go into more depth on this quote?
Yeah, so at first glance it kind of looks like a lot. It's a lot of very smarty words. The way I broke it down, how I took it was, the main idea is that the sociological imagination, it shows us the whole picture of things. It's not just the inner problems we have as human beings, it's our inner problems that could end up being a result of public catastrophes like war, crisis, and things, the way we perceive it and how it's going on in the public.
Mm-hmm.
So examples I can think of are, we see the rich and the poor, we see wars and the crises globally, the United States being divided, and everybody will perceive these problems differently, and it'll affect everybody differently.
Mm-hmm.
This helps understand these public events and how they happen, because we're left with our own personal problems because of it, and in most cases it's not our fault, it's kind of just the public's results.
Yeah, so going off what you said, it's not our fault, it's the public. My quote was about war. Well, how about you read my quote first, and then I'll go back to what you said.
Right. So you said, when wars happen, an insurance salesperson becomes a rocket launcher, a store clerk, a raider, operator, a wife or husband lives alone, a child grows up without a parent. Neither the life of an individual nor the history of a society can be understood without understanding both.
Yeah, so going off what you said, sometimes it's not the person's problem, it's the public's. I think war totally relates to that, because war isn't, because someone in their daily life does something wrong. War is because leaders of a country decide to declare war on each other. So I think that, exactly relates to your quote. And then going off on my quote by itself, I thought that Mills emphasized that personal experiences can't be separated from historical events. And, a perfect example of this is war, and how war transforms ordinary lives. And it proves that private troubles and public issues are always interconnected.
Connected.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I got there.
I'm just kind of going off your notes, and it says you bring a connection to week 11.
Yep.
About the black men's employment struggles, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So, but let's start off with let's keep going. Week 5. You said, moreover, if the division of labor does not fill any other role, not only does it not have a moral character, but it's difficult to see what reason for existence it would have. This is from Durkheim, and we chose different ones for this week, so I'm actually interested to see what you learned from this.
Yeah, so with this one I said that Durkheim argued that the division of labor is not just about efficiency, it more serves as a moral or a social purpose, and if it doesn't help society move closer together, then it kind of loses its meaning. And this, off of what Durkheim says, Durkheim believed that the division of labor should create social cohesion, not just economic output. And it's kind of getting at this fact that it's not just for, economics, it's more for bringing people together socially. And without this moral basis, specialization becomes meaningless and potentially harmful. And Durkheim says that society needs a moral foundation, otherwise people compete purely for self-interest, and this weakens social bonds. So I really like what Durkheim gets at here, and I also relate it back to Mills because
Yeah, right. I see that.
because personal feelings of disconnection are rooted in large scale economic systems, not individual
Yeah,
failures.
that goes right in.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
so
makes sense.
and then bouncing back to what you said, we did different weeks. You did
Yeah, I used the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah, and you said by bourgeois, sorry about the bourgeois is meant the class of modern capitalists, owners of the means of social production, and employers of wage labor. By proletariat, the class of modern wage laborers who have no means of production of their own are reduced to selling their labor power in order to live.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of big words there. Sounds like a lot to pack in, but basically the concept of this quote kind of gets at the entire chapter of this Communist Manifesto, the big one that we took in this week. But basically it talks about how the bourgeois is full of the rich people,
Yep.
the ones who either don't work as hard or work hard but still receive lots of income from it. It doesn't really matter. Like these guys, they get all the money. And the proletariat is the one who works just as hard or maybe not harder or less hard. They don't receive nearly the same income as the other class. So the bourgeois is kind of looked at as the higher class, while the proletariat is like the lower class.
Yeah, and kind of going off that, like, it just makes me think of, nowadays where we have lower class, middle class, and upper class. And I just think that, sometimes these can be misleading because you can have someone who works hard but receives high pay or vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I kind of dive in here. I have like a whole doc and set of things, but I dive in here, and some examples of the bourgeois is they have their own means of production, factories, land, machines, businesses. A lot of these people, they also come from rich families, so they're kind of just born into having a lot of money.
Born into rich.
And so their wealth kind of comes from their ownership and their family tree. And they kind of profit by hiring workers instead of actually doing the work. So they have people working for them, and they're paying them less while they're making more.
Yeah.
While the proletariats, they don't have their own means of production, so they're not hiring workers and receiving income for it.
Yeah.
They're kind of doing everything on their own and working their butt off. And they're not making nearly as much money as the bourgeois.
Yeah.
And their only economic option is to sell their labor, so sell their like working products in order to survive. And these are the type of people that work long, hard hours, but they receive nearly the amount that the bourgeois receive.
Yeah.
So like this, I mean, to kind of base it off of both classes, there's a huge gap. And there's this big exploitation between this, and it's
pretty unfair.
Yeah, it's pretty unfair. And you know what? You can also connect this back to the sociological imagination as a whole. I know our professor talks about it a lot. All these main ideas kind of go back to the root of it, the sociological imagination.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like, it's not the proletariat's fault that they're not necessarily making the same amount of money as the bourgeois.
Yeah.
And you know what, if we're going based off of work ethic, they deserve as much money as they're making. And the bourgeois, some of them don't deserve that money.
Yeah, they're just born into wealth.
Exactly, so.
But yeah, I think that was really interesting.
Yeah,
there.
For sure. Simul, week 6, we had the same thing. And I think we have different quotes, so let's just unpack this right now. You had exchange is the purest and most concentrated form of all human interactions in which serious interests are at stake.
Yeah, so this is a somewhat simple quote. It's pretty short, but I think it gets at something a lot deeper. I think Simul's saying, hey, exchange isn't just a thing that people do. It's the foundation of social relationships. When people trade, negotiate, rely on one another, they reveal the deepest structure of their social life, and it truly is these social relationships that make up what we call society. And Simul quotes that exchange is the clearest way how we see society function, and I really truly agree with this, because society is just built on so many different exchanges going on at the same time. And a common one people think about is money or trade, in how this shapes in how people relate to each other. And on the idea of money, exchange exposes power, desire, conflict, dependence, and cooperation, kind of all at once. And, when you think about money, you can really get that because money's, huge on power, and desire and conflict, dependence, and cooperation, all those relate back to money. And it exchange kind of shows how people need one another, and that no one is kind of completely independent. And relating to Weber, which I think you did Weber this week.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Right?
I was looking at week 11.
Yeah.
And we kind of had the same thing there.
Yeah, so like Weber, he highlights how rational calculation becomes central to modern society.
Yeah, so a small hint to what I looked into. But,
Yes.
I want to just hammer on one thing that you actually had down here as I'm just looking through. You
Yep.
were able to make a connection to week 11 with our concept of week 11 we'll be talking about shortly. You said hiring is an exchange, but inequality distorts who even gets the chance to participate. What does that basically mean?
So basically, hiring is, you exchange different people in and out of jobs, but sometimes people don't even get the chance to even get that interview or even apply for that job
Right.
due to, their background, what they look like comes into play, as we know. Just a lot of different things, and we'll dive deeper into that in week 11. But
Yeah, that makes sense.
I really think that it kind of provide a cool little point.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. I'm sure we can kind of tail that back into when we get back into week 11.
Yeah.
We can talk about that again. But,
Yeah. So
week 6, Weber's.
yes, so you said every genuine form of domination implies a minimum of voluntary compliance, that is, an interest in obedience.
Yeah, so I love this week. I thought that the idea of it was kind of something that is, you kind of notice it in real life, and you don't actually think about it until you notice it, like until you read about it. You're like, wow, okay, that makes sense. So the idea of the quote, the concept is mainly that any kind of authority or domination to really work, people have to go along with it willingly, at least a little bit, if not. The point is that nobody can be forced to comply to anything, and if they do comply, they weren't forced because a small tidbit of them wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So Weber basically knocks down on it and says that domination equals getting people to obey, and they accept it, and it's part of their will that do that.
Yeah. I saw a cool little quote you had down in this section where it said, Weber says authority depends on belief in rules, tradition, or the person in charge. So just kind of dive deeper into that.
Yeah, so I mean, people put themselves in different positions all the time. So if Weber has, when Weber talks about for the domination to really work, people have to, the person in charge has to make the person that isn't interested believe in something so that they have even a tidbit of a belief to even do it. So if there's a small belief that they want to do it, they can do it, they'll take it. And if they do take it, then they weren't forced. A small part of them believed they could do it. And so I feel like when he talks about the belief in rules, tradition, or the person in charge, the person in charge needs to be a good person, needs to have values that these person align with in order to actually do it. Because if it doesn't go together like that, then no one's going to have even a small tidbit. I feel like a good example is if you're a player and you have a coach and he's kind of tough on you, but this one snippet of him that you actually agree with and believe in, you kind of ride with that, and that part of you is just like kind of goes with it, and then that's domination because that small bit of you went with it.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. Yeah.
Without that, one more thing I actually want to say is that without that belief, domination breaks down because people stop cooperating. So if there's no belief, they're not going to do it.
Yeah,
so.
I totally agree, and I like how you connected that to sports, because obviously we play sport, and
people have to believe in it at least a little bit to cooperate.
And believe in tradition, believe in the team. I think those are all good
and I
points.
feel like, and one more thing also is that the belief has to be aligned with if they think it's right or not too. So if they think it's slightly right at all. Like maybe they don't like it, but they think it's right. That's still belief.
Yeah,
So
100%.
they go with it anyway. you
Yeah.
know? So
Totally agree. Yes. So,
yep.
and then diving into
Week 11. This is the last one that I know the professor has been waiting for, and we've been waiting for it because we've been able to find a lot of connections to week 11.
Yep.
We used Mills for this one.
Yes. Same quote.
Yeah, same quote. So I think we did this one together this week too.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of works out anyway. We kind of have same ideas. The quote was, "Employers already reluctant to hire blacks appear even more wary of blacks with proven criminal involvement."
Yes. Slight correction. Sorry. I'm pretty sure this is Pager, if I'm not mistaken, instead of Mills.
Oh yeah, sorry about that, Pager. I
All
had
set.
a typo over here.
Yes, it's okay. But yeah, same quote, and I think this quote is again, it's not too fancy. It's pretty simple, but I think it has a really deep meaning. So, what did you kind of get at from the quote? And I'll kind of bounce off of you.
It basically just talks about how colored people are already at a disadvantage for employment.
Mm-hmm.
And this bias is deepened after a criminal record is brought into play. So there's some statistic, I don't know if it's in Page's writing completely, but we talked about it in class. We saw a video over it with police and people at barbecues, and how over the course of time blacks have been treated unequally.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it kind of just goes to show that it'll be the same thing for employment as well.
Yeah, and a really cool point that the research found is that white applicants with a criminal record were more likely to get callbacks than black applicants with no record.
Yep.
I just thought that was shocking, honestly.
And it goes back to the root of it,
Yeah,
like I just talked about. All these, it's just unfair. It's unfair, and then you add the criminal record on top of it. People, especially that are white people, kind of connect black criminal records with a traditional history of black people being harmful or being more violent, so they're not going to take them back. And it's kind of a racist look at it. Pager talks about how people of different race are already treated differently, and you add that criminal record, it gets even worse.
Yeah, and another point is relating back to Weber, who you did, his idea of domination. This system works because people just accept these racial stereotypes as normal, given these places who deny these people the chances or opportunities. People give them legitimacy because it's quote unquote normal, but in reality they're really unfair.
Yep.
So I just thought that was a cool point to make, and relates back to Weber.
Yeah, and then you can also relate it back to Mill's concepts, that like what you just said, the individual problem. Mm-hmm. People might seem of it as an individual problem for individuals that are criminals and black. But it's actually reflecting a huge, much larger problem, and it's also a social pattern. And so you talked about in the quote, week 11, you said it was Simmel's writing with exchange. You said hiring is an exchange, but inequality distorts who even gets a chance to participate. You want to dive a little bit deeper into that with what we just talked about?
Yeah.
I know you already said a lot, so
I'll jump back into it. Like I said, hiring is obviously an exchange. An exchange, you're giving your labor for them to give you money, and it's a process. I actually, relating back to the quote I just read about how white people with a record get more callbacks than black people with no record. This shows how that inequality distorts who even gets the chance to participate, because if you're black and you don't have a criminal record, and a person that's white has a criminal record and they're getting called back before you, how is that fair? And how you're not even getting a chance to participate. So I just thought that those 2 points kind of go together, and I think that Pager really the thoughts relate to what we did for week 11.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that just about wraps it up.
Yeah.
It was a great course, learning all these things. I think these weeks really were our peak interests,
Yep.
and we appreciate being a part of this course. And yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yep,
Overall, great course. Very interesting content. Learned a lot more than I'd initially thought. So.
yeah, definitely sparked a lot of different questions in my brain, and
Yep.
might want to dive a little bit deeper into it and see what else I can find out. So
Yeah.
yeah, all
Fair.
right,
But
all right,
yeah.
see ya.
See ya.